So my name is Mark McBride from Ithaca SNR. I'm here joined by my colleagues, Tom, Corey, and Teresa. We're going to talk today about textbook affordability, open educational resources, and they're each going to share their perspectives on what's happening inside their organizations and what's happening on their campuses. And so I just want to level set with everyone. I think everybody in this room probably already understands this. Textbook costs, they surged historically for quite some time. There has been an adjustment in the marketplace. The costs have come down, but students still struggle to pay these additional costs. And so a number of libraries have stepped into this space to help try to defer the cost for students by standing up textbook affordability initiatives, many of them based on open educational resources, some of them based in programs like inclusive access and equitable access. And libraries for a number of years have worked really hard to make faculty aware of the resources that are actually available in the library themselves, materials that we subscribe to and that we own. So in a recent report we released at the beginning of this year, we found that in most open educational resource efforts where libraries were taking the lead, the library was instrumental not only in raising awareness on campus, but actually in helping faculty make a transition. Librarians and libraries were seen as a trusted, I wouldn't call it advocate, but just a trusted mechanism to help faculty see the opportunity with using open educational resources as a vehicle for course materials. And in the different campuses, and depending if you're an R1, a community college, HBCU, or even a smaller public regional, each library had a different role to play. And the role that they played was not just in informing faculty, but also in helping students advocate for themselves, helping them advocate with their voices in the classroom, making their faculty aware of what the opportunities were for them to drive down the costs. Now, there's still adoption challenges, but most libraries have worked very hard to start to bring equity and affordability into the overall strategic plans of their organizations. And the campuses, by and large, are seeing the libraries as strong role models for the campus and helping to drive down the cost for students. But libraries are still facing significant struggle with this work. Their staffing numbers are not going up. It's just one more item on their long list of things to do for the campus and for the students. And so libraries are struggling, trying to find a way to operationalize this work and to also type of, I would say, streamline the effort so that it can not only be an added benefit to the campus, but it won't come at the expense of burning out the staff that actually are employed inside the library. So that's the quick level setting I'm going to do here. And what I'd like to do is actually roll into asking questions of the panelists. And at the end of the panel discussion, we're going to turn to all of you to ask questions. And so with bringing my fatherly hat and putting it down, I'm going to look at my phone when I ask the questions, because I'm always telling my son to stop looking at his phone when he's talking to me, but I'm actually going to, well, contradict myself. So Corey, I'm going to start with you with a quick question, because I know you oversee a big OER initiative in New York State in the SUNY system. And so has your institution articulated a formal strategy with textbook affordability or open educational resources? And if so, how have you made that clear to the campuses? I believe there's 64 of them.
Yes. So as Mark said, I work with SUNY, the State University of New York, and specifically with SUNY OER services. We were set up 8 years ago, not 8. Mark was actually really instrumental in making that happen. And we serve all 64 campuses in SUNY. We have community colleges as small as 800 students up to over 20,000. We have R1s, medical universities, everything in between. And we are 64 separate entities, but we are also one system. And so OER services has really been trying to make that, that one unit work together. So some of the things we do receive funding from our state legislature, which we're very thankful for. And we take that, it allows us to provide a ready-to-adopt catalog of courseware, adaptive courseware for our faculty and students to access free of charge. We've seen a lot of growth in that in recent years, but we obviously want to keep the momentum going. We also provide professional development and fellowships with that funding. OER impact grants, which can fund projects on specific campuses, and a community of practice where all our campuses come together to share best practices, successes. And since 2017, we've seen over $119 million in textbook savings for students. Again, we're really hoping to keep pushing that number up. But it's allowed us, this funding and this entity that is SUNY OER Services has allowed us to kind of start to operationalize OER across the state. Do you want to?
So Teresa, historically libraries have always played a role with course reserves, and I know students have always used course reserves as kind of the having to pay for the materials, they can use what's available in the library, but that has evolved as well. Yes. And so I'm just curious, from your perspective, what other roles are libraries playing beyond just the course reserve model in helping to defray the cost for students?
Sure. So I'm the Scholarly Communication and Social Sciences Librarian at the University of Nevada, Reno. So I oversee our open educational resources efforts, but I'm also a liaison librarian to several social science areas. And course reserves is still certainly big. Ebooks are big, but some of the changes in the ebook market are having effects on us. And so we've really become a leader on campus for OER. I would say our program really started in full about 5 years ago, and it's been kind of us slowly adding pieces. So at first we got a grant to fund a grant for our faculty to switch. And then our provost, we were able to get our provost on board, so he's been very supportive, and he's been providing funding for that ever since. And we should hopefully be starting a call for application for our 5th round of cohorts for our grant program for faculty. I will note we are still a little bit limited in what we support, so it's we only support adopting and adapting OER. We're technically, we do have a Pressbooks instance, and I always tell my faculty, if you want to use it to create a textbook, I won't stop you. I think that's great, but we can't really provide support like copy editing, project management, design, things like that. We're just, again, I'm one person and I'm doing other jobs too. So the grant has certainly been our largest area we've been supporting so far, but we have in the past year been making strides elsewhere. So we're in the middle of launching campus-wide a course marking program so that students can now search for these classes. Right now we're just doing no-cost textbook courses, but we will be adding low-cost as well, which I know other states have been getting into. And this is something also, it's a little bit weird in Nevada. We don't actually have many public institutions or many higher education institutions at all, and we're fairly separate from each other, but when it comes to course marking, there's actually a committee, and we're going to do this as a state, at least setting definitions. So we have that, and then also, so this summer we did a pilot test of Scylla, which is, Tom will talk more about this too, but a tool to help faculty more easily find OER, because certainly this is one of the biggest issues. There is no one-stop shop for OER, and it can be very difficult for it. So that's a tool that we're going to be adding, and my goal is that when we launch the CFP for the call for proposals for our next round of OER grants, I can also let faculty know, hey, we have Scylla, because we want evidence when you apply that there's at least existing OER. We have some other initiatives we've been doing. I lead an affordable textbook working group, so this is an inter-campus group. A lot of the libraries is involved, but we also have our Online education department, we have our teaching excellence department is involved, and then we recently started a group for faculty for like an faculty advisory committee, so we can get more feedback from instructional faculty as well. And then Nevada, actually, we're a little behind, I know, but we just launched our first statewide OER, Open Education Symposium earlier this year, and we're now planning for our second. So we've definitely grown a lot, I would say, beyond just course reserves. It's still a big thing for us, and we call our working group the Affordable Textbook Working Group because we still want to include that piece for reserves. That's still an important part to us, and we have someone from reserves on the committee, and we have people from technical services and discovery and purchasing on our committee, so that's very important to us as well. But I would say open education has been getting a really big boost for us.
So that's, well, did you want to say something,
I just
Corey?
wanted to give an example, if I can, of a really successful library-led initiative in OER.
Sure.
Is that, so one of our campuses, SUNY Fredonia, it's a liberal arts school in Western New York. A couple years ago, they have a librarian, I think I don't know if OER is in her title, but she's a research and instruction librarian. And she partnered with the director of the Professional Development Center, who is a former librarian, and so has a librarian brain. And they put together a grant proposal and were awarded a grant to launch a business course pathway so that all of the the lower level business courses that all of the students would take would all be OER after the project. The library created workshops on course refreshing and workshops for 8 business faculty specifically about converting their courses. They assisted the faculty in converting the courses, and they had a lot of success with it. They did conduct a student survey on OER perception as part of the project as well, so they would have some data around that, and they compared it to a survey from 2019. And I just want to share a couple successes because they had 8 courses converted, which brought their total on campus up to 114 sections of OER. But in the 1 year that they did the project, they realized $155,000 in savings, which will continue each year as the courses remain OER. But another real win was that the faculty became OER champions on their campus, and they can now go and teach and share with others. But the entire project was run and managed by a librarian. And so this campus wouldn't have had all of this success without their work.
So that's great, Corey. And so it's a good time to segue to Tom from an organization called Scylla. And I think we met a couple years ago. Scylla's a really interesting player in this space right now, because one of the gaps I think that libraries and campuses have is actually understanding what faculty are teaching with. Like, what are the actual materials and where are the opportunities to help defray the costs for students? So Tom, you want to describe Scylla a little bit, and then I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'll keep it very brief, but essentially what we do is try to help libraries and their campuses understand, first of all, indeed, as Mark mentioned, what they're using, like what are they teaching with, getting the data, reading list data, bookstore data, course catalog data, and then we match that to OER and the open content that's out there. So we basically bring together this data that you typically already have, and then help you understand, well, what OER is out there for me, for my course, for my campus, and then we help you to work with that, and as Teresa mentioned, to really make it easier to find it, adapt it, and adopt it.
So as a follow-up to that, so I know that this space is still in development, where textbook affordability or course materials affordability is still a predominant focus. Like, what does an organization like Scylla bring into the marketplace that other providers are not bringing in?
Yeah, thanks. So I think first of all there is, so we are originally from Europe, from the Netherlands, from a little bit of a different context. And I think what we've originally seen and are still seeing, there has been a lot of groundwork being done with OER in North America and the US specifically, a lot of people simply basically doing the work, creating OERs, making them available, using them for their students, and of course sharing that with others by making it openly available. There are great providers and parties that help with creating OER. Pressbooks was just mentioned. There are also others. And what we're really trying to do is help and build on that work and support that work, and not focusing so much for us on that creation and that piece, which others I think are doing quite well, but really on making sure once there's content out there that it's also used, which is one of the key things for OER, of course, that people can actually find it and adopt it and help make a bigger impact. So that's the gap we're kind of looking to fill and to help with. And also a big piece, I think, is with the type of maybe faculty we work with through libraries and kind of the type of people. So there are a lot of great people, again, who are doing this groundwork in the OER community, creating open textbooks. They're being very active. But there's also a big portion of faculty on campus probably that are very time constrained, and they're in principle open to using OER, but they have very little time, and they need a bit of help and service with maybe just finding something that fits for them. And that's a big group that, where we're looking to help and really help libraries move to, that next level of engaging with those faculty.
So Teresa, you mentioned that Nevada, you're still fairly early in this work, and I'm just curious for like any library that's maybe just emerging into this space, what advice would you give for, a campus just stepping into this?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been a slow build for us. When we first launched our grant program, we did get people to apply, but it was not many people. We actually had more grants we could have given out than we were able to. And so we kind of looked at, the grant. Could we make it easier? We were offering $1,000 at the time. We've since increased it. Now it's a minimum of $1,500, and depending on class size, you can actually get up to $3,500. And then if you're going to adapt material, you can get an additional $1,000. So we've tried to incentivize faculty that way. But I would say the two biggest things, make it as easy as possible for them. So again, this is part of why we're so interested in Scylla. Now, we can actually start to build courses in Scylla ourselves. We're working with Scylla on that. Kind of just basic shells where it has a very basic description of a course, the learning outcomes, and then if we have information about the book that's used, we can upload the book, and then Scylla can help to start go out and find material. But then we can let faculty know, and if they want to add more information to their course in Scylla, they can do that, and then hopefully the information they get from Scylla will be even more improved. But the idea of Scylla is make it easier for faculty to find OER. And then at the same time, so we do have a Pressbook instance. We use it a little bit differently because, again, we're not really supporting creation. We're doing it more for making our own copies, partly for preservation, because we've had some faculty who they were linking out to material and then the links went bad. So just so we have our own copy and we don't have to worry about that anymore. Partly, again, obviously, if they do want to do any adapting work, but then also, so accessibility has actually been a very big issue for my institution for almost a decade now. There was a lawsuit. So we've been already going through the accessibility stuff. And so by having our own copy, we can make sure it is accessible. When we first had Pressbook, faculty, most of it, I think we had one faculty member who was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to dive in and do it myself. But otherwise, most of our faculty were just not interested in trying to learn it. So even though we're still not providing a ton of support, we are providing support we're exploring using a grad student right now to be the one to either clone an existing Pressbooks or copy and paste from some other existing OER. So we are doing some basic work, basic formatting. Accessibility is the big thing. We're making sure there's actual, real alternative text, not just file name or whatever. So that's what we're doing. And we have gotten more interest from faculty now that we are offering that support. So making it as easy as possible for faculty while still maintaining what you can do, obviously, because that's a big issue too. And then also just being really organized. I have so many spreadsheets I use to track everything I do. I have multiple spreadsheets saying I contacted these people on this date. Did they respond? Where are they from? Their roles, things like that. I have we do surveys of our students who are in the classes that go through our grant program. So we're always surveying these students. I have a lot of data there. just being really on top of it, because it's very easy to start getting lost in the quagmire of all of this, and especially because there are so many arms and legs of this. We've got the grant, we've got the course marking, we've got SCILA, we've got the statewide symposium, so there's just a lot to keep track of. So honestly, the biggest favor you could do for yourself is really just be organized.
So if anybody has any questions during the presentation, feel free to put your hand up and we can start taking questions. But I do have one for Corey. She talks about the OER services, and this has been around now for almost 10 years. But every act has a second act. And so I'm just curious, as you start to evolve the OER services that think beyond just affordability, what does that second act look like?
Yeah, I think you can really feel the two acts, and intermission would have been COVID years. There was a lot of excitement about OER in the late teens. At SUNY, we were sending out money to campuses for, helping faculty convert their course. Everything was great. And then COVID, we all lived through that. And I think faculty got a lot of burnout right afterward. And so to go to them and say, oh, hey, want to rewrite your whole course and change everything, it wasn't great timing. But as Mark said, we're kind of moving away from focusing just on student affordability and trying to align our mission with student success and completion. And you can't draw a line between using an OER and increased GPA or increased retention. But you can, as that Fredonia survey look at student access to information. And if students are skipping meals, purchasing their book because of textbook affordability, they're not going to be successful. So I think aligning, it's not exciting, but aligning OER with your campus priorities, whether those are equity, completion, student success, that really helps get buy-in from leadership, which then helps, again, drive momentum, sometimes in the form of incentives or just overall in campus approach to it. And then I think just celebrating the impact, faculty need to hear from other faculty how great their course went after they converted to OER. We need to hear from students and see those metrics on student success and completion. When we have all that, really share it out, and I think that helps drive momentum as well.
So Tom, you have both a European and North American context. And so, you've been working in the States for a little while. What is the advantage of working with libraries like, University of Nevada, Reno? What is the advantage of working with somebody like a library consortia, let's say? Like, what advantage does that have in, let's say, informing a strategic initiative around textbook affordability and open educational resources in higher education?
Yeah, so first of all, it's been really great to work with Teresa and the team at Nevada Reno. And we are certainly still, I think, learning a lot about the U.S. landscape. The U.S. is very big, very diverse, but I think we're making good headway. And I think a very big piece of it, whether it's for individual libraries or for consortia, is around having that overview and having that kind of that access to data, seeing that data, and then being able to kind of use that to help get buy-in from others on campus, from leadership. That's one of the things we do, like showing you where the potential is on campus for libraries to keep making headway and making an impact, like course by course or one faculty member at a time, but also be able to kind of explain and share that bigger picture of what you're working towards and how that's making an impact. I think that's an interest we're seeing from a bunch of consortia as well, as they're looking to kind of figure out, well, how can we support our member libraries or campuses with OER and affordability, and where, yeah, I certainly think they can play a big role to maybe connect some of the pieces there.
So I'm curious, In the work with OER, Teresa, have you started to see maybe your special collections or your archive starting to play a role in helping to, let's say, bring some of their collections that are somewhat invisible to the rest of the campus more visible and ready for instructional purposes?
As far as OER, not so much. I do know they are actually in early stage talks with our Access Services Department to see about is there potential to place special collections material on course reserves, but I know that's in very early stages. They are a little understaffed, as I'm sure it's probably common in other university libraries. And so they haven't been overly involved in the open education world, but it's certainly something to explore in the future. I mean, I know there's been other successful, especially when it comes to open pedagogy programs. I've been trying to kind of get faculty interested in open pedagogy. We haven't made a ton of progress yet. I would love to see more, though. I think, like Corey said, my university, especially the administration, is definitely, there's still like student savings. That's what they're really focused on. And I think student savings is important, but I do think it's important that we also begin to kind of broaden our view of open education and see this bigger view of student success. How can open pedagogy support? So certainly, I think hopefully as we begin to move that way, I think that's an avenue we can explore, because I know it's been successfully done at other institutions.
Well, I know in SUNY, open pedagogy and having more of a student-focused approach to building the actual materials in the class itself has been, something at play for a number of years. Can you think in SUNY, is there a growth in more student content development around the OER services program, or are you seeing students take more ownership in terms of the way the courses are designed?
Yeah, and we've actually seen some evidence even of flipped classroom structures where the students help make the syllabus with the faculty to make sure things are more open. But we do provide a platform for publishing through WordPress. We call it SUNY Create, and it's for student work in digital communications, digital scholarship, different applications on different campuses. And again, the library plays a key role. On some campuses, the library is kind of managing that, and on others, they're just supporting. But I mentioned our community of practice. We have representatives from all of our campuses, and about half of them are librarians. So they really serve as this bridge between our system and their campus, between faculty and OER, between the instructional designers and the students. And we're really seeing the libraries kind of in the center of that hub where everyone's coming to them for different supports in these areas.
So Tom, I know Scylla is primarily focused on let's say, targeting existing open content that, people may be familiar with, OpenStax or other open providers. Do you have any cases where Scylla is actually using student-created content to inform some of the design inside courses?
That's a good question. Not yet, or at least not at the moment.
It was an unfair question.
I think I think there are a lot of interesting approaches to working with OER and creating OER. I think we've been quite focused on a particular use case indeed. We are, however, getting a lot of interest, and there are projects ongoing when it comes to the gaps. So let's say there's a library or faculty member that wants to have an OER for their course, but it doesn't exist. We are not a platform that's going to create that. We are not an OER publisher. But that's very interesting data maybe for another party to work with, and those could be faculty members creating those, it could be with publishers, or it could be students. There could be a bunch of approaches, and I think we would be very interested in helping bring that information to the surface so that the community can act on that and help grow basically the open content pool, or make sure that there are more options tomorrow hopefully than there are today.
And I'm just curious also if Teresa, Corey, and Tom, maybe you know examples of this. Have you seen where faculty are using AI to create content now and maybe not openly licensing it, so we might be infringing on copyright somewhere in this question, but let's just assume that they are being good stewards of copyrighted material. But have you seen evidence of faculty developing content and then using it for instructional purposes? And maybe even the students using AI for instructional purposes?
UNR and University of Nevada, Las Vegas, we just finished our second annual AI symposium. And we have actually had one of our OER faculty members, they went through our OER grant. She's presented both years at it. So I know she is using AI, and how she's using AI I don't know if she's using AI so much as like helping students learn how they can use AI, right? How to be critical thinkers about it. So I know there is some thinking about it going on. We also have our faculty though, who part of the reason they're hesitant about OER is they're like, well, then they can just like go online and have AI sum it up for them. So we also have the faculty who are very weary of it, we will say. So there's a mix of both, yeah.
And I would say yes is the answer. Yes, at SUNY, we have faculty who are using AI to develop OER. We actually had a faculty member give a workshop on it. And he's a really digital native faculty member, and so he already had a lot of background and was able to share how to do this in an ethical way. He wasn't, taking the content from AI and plopping it in his course, but he was, developing assessment questions based on, the student's work, or he uses it for prompts. He uses it in class, as another resource for the students. So we definitely do have it happening, and we're trying to get the word out about it more.
All right, thank you. So if there's no questions, I just want to say thank you to our panelists for sharing their thought. Oh, there is a question in the back. I apologize.
Hi, I'm Angela from UC Santa Barbara. This is a question for Corey and Teresa. For your faculty who are creating resources, do you provide infrastructure where they can deposit their created works, or they can maybe share across campus, for instance?
So again, we have Pressbooks, but we haven't really gotten this going yet because we're still fairly new at Pressbooks. But our goal is to anything made through Pressbooks is we can then export and we can preserve it in our institutional repository. So that's our plan. We actually have some librarians who have made their own open educational resources kind of totally separately, and they recently deposited in there. We have an odd situation with the RIR. It's been around for 10 years, but the old library only took it over a year ago. And when it was originally made, there was a whole collection for OER, but no one was using it. So we deleted it, and so I had to get it to bring it back. But yeah, so now we have like a whole collection area for where we can put OER.
Yeah, and we similarly, as SUNY, it's called the SUNY Open Access Repository, and it is for any faculty or student created works that are openly accessible. And we also we have a shared learning management system, Brightspace, across SUNY, and so we are able to put objects in that and access them through all the SUNY campuses that way.
Yes, another question?
Yeah, I'm curious if you've been able to incentivize your faculty to use OER through the tenure and promotion process, because that's what really matters. If I have to do this or I get rewarded for this in the tenure and promotion process, then suddenly they're motivated.
I'm speaking for 64 campuses, so we have 64 different answers to that question. But yes, some of our campuses use faculty-created OER as part of their tenure and promotion portfolios. It is the way we run things in SUNY. It is a campus-by-campus decision. They make their own, criteria for tenure and promotion, but they do consider. Many campuses do consider a scholarly output, toward the profession.
So this is partly what I'm really hoping we can use our new faculty advisory council for, is to kind of like to start to see have they been doing this? What would be the best way? Because again, it's going to be different by department in college, right? Because they'll all have their own bylaws. But one thing, this just passed, so I haven't had a chance to see how it's going to be in play. Our faculty senate did just pass this past May a new rubric for how to evaluate instruction for promotion and tenure, and we did get open education resources added into the rubric. It has its own specific spot in there. So we were really happy to see that. I'm hoping that's something that we can start promoting with our faculty and letting them know about. And again, it's a little early to see how will it come into play, but I'm hoping it will.
That's a great question. Are any other questions? All right. Well, thank you to our panelists for sharing their insights. Good.
Thank you.